Good. Thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
What time is it? You're in New York, aren't you?
Yeah, it's 10:01.
10:01. And how is it there at the moment?
Um, yeah, I think it's very we're going through a lot of emotions right now. I just got off the phone with the majority of my team, and it's been a long week. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's great that you've been able to take some time to be with us today
Yeah.
and speak to the lovely Miss Jones members today. So I'm just going to fire. You're obviously Lauren can't join us today. She's taking a bit of a break from her screen time, working really hard. And what we've kind of decided with the Fireside Chats is we wanted to start interviewing some really interesting assistants. So this is Christel, and I'll let her tell you all about herself now. So yeah, I think I'm just going to fire through these questions, and then yeah, you can just answer where you see fit. So how did you become an assistant?
So I became an assistant around 10 years ago, and I was working for a family friend. And actually, it started when I was 16, so way over 10 years ago, but we won't get into the details of how far. But I was working at 16 in an office as a receptionist, and I really enjoyed it. And then I got into retail, and then afterwards, I was like, well, I really, really enjoyed being a receptionist. And then I found out what an executive assistant does. And I found that so interesting to be able to kind of like be a psychic and figure out someone's calendar without them having to tell you. I thought it was something that was right up my alley. I really loved organizing stuff, and especially like events or anything. I'm just the planner. So the planner in me went ahead and started applying. I knew I wanted to get into fashion. So I started working for a clothing manufacturing company where I got to learn a lot. So that was like 10 years ago. And then here we are 10 years later, I'm working for Saint Laurent, supporting the CEO. So it's been great.
And I love the brand. It must
Thank
be.
you.
There's a couple of perks.
Yeah.
I'd say so. So you said there you went into fashion on purpose. So did you always want to go into the fashion industry, and is that why you decided to kind of go from the bottom and learn more so that you could really grow, I suppose, in the fashion industry?
Yeah, I think at the time it's an industry that really piqued my interest, and I just wanted to learn more about it. And I felt like it would be, I'd be doing a disservice to myself if I didn't learn exactly the steps of everything of how it takes to have a finished product. So I decided to work with a clothing manufacturing company to really understand. And during that, I was able to really learn a lot about fabrics, the different fabrics that they use, trims, and all of that. And yeah, I guess it was just to have a clear understanding of the process, because then I figured that down the line, I can already know how the business operates. It'll be easier for me to know what takes priority.
Yeah.
And I feel like that really helped. And then from there, I was able, luckily, to move on to like Burberry and then Saint Laurent.
Okay, and so just going back a bit, so you started in such a small company. How did you start taking the leap to go into bigger companies and obviously where you are now?
Yeah, so I think one of the things too, especially when you're applying, when you work for a smaller company, you kind of feel hopeless. You feel like maybe a bigger corporation isn't going to give you that chance because, normally, and this is normally they will give the chances to people with experience working for like bigger corporations, but that's not to say that they won't, hire people from smaller companies. And I've seen it, and I'm one of those people myself. And I think one of the tricks to that is really just not giving up. A lot of the times you end up believing just because you've gotten a bunch of no's that this is the reality, but in reality, it's not it. And I would say like, just keep on applying, maybe reword your resume to fit more the language. There's a different kind of language too that's spoken between like corporate and then smaller companies. So it's really learning the lingo and being able to adjust your resume, make it pop out. I think that's what's most important. And then of course, bringing that confidence over in an interview is really going to seal the deal.
So do you have any one tip that you can give that really makes your resume pop out?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like your skills are what's really going to set you apart. And I feel like the best thing that you can do, especially as an EA, is to train. And if your company's not doing it for you, then sometimes finding like, resources out there that are more economical. Like I know Lauren from Join the Official, she has really great membership program. And there's other, companies like that for cater to executive assistants where they can kind of help themselves, just better themselves. And I think that at the end of the day, it's what you put down in your resume. So whatever brings me more value, I'm going to add on there. So for instance, I knew that being a notary public is going to be something that really helps me stand out from the rest, because sure, there's EAs with that are notary publics, but in reality, it's not that many. So doing small things or taking small courses or getting certified in something really is showing them that you're going above and beyond your role.
Yeah. And are there any other skills that you think are quite beneficial to have?
Yeah, I feel like one of the most important skills to have is to be very resourceful. As I said before, this role, you don't really, sometimes maybe you're in a great company that will train you, but the majority of the time you're training yourself. So one of the things that always helps me is just learning as much as I can. And then I'm actually always the one to create like a little PowerPoint for the new executive assistant coming in, like, hey, here's the tips and tricks that I learned. I want to pass it down to you, but you're not always going to have that. So just being resourceful and really asking for help. I know sometimes that's like a big deal. Sometimes we're always so used to helping others that sometimes we don't want to ask for help ourselves. So asking your peers for help, and you'll see like they're super supportive.
That's so nice that you give new executives a little PowerPoint on things. I think
Yeah.
everyone should learn from that, because it's so nice. I think for people, whenever they start a new role, to kind of, they're so flustered and they don't know what's going on, and having, someone like yourself who's so experienced, who's like, the top EA in the company, giving something like that is so, so nice. And I'm sure like it's just quite personable as well. So
Yeah.
no, that's really nice.
Yeah, I really enjoyed doing it, especially like just the tips that everyone else, every other executive assistant out there, if you do plan on doing it, I think like a floor plan of the floor that you're working for, or the different floors if you're working in a building. Just because like I remember the first few days I would get so lost in any job. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to create a map for you guys, and this is going to be where this person sits, and you'll know, and you won't have any issues. So that's a tip I would give people.
Oh, that's a great tip. Amazing. So, and just for everyone as well, if we'll do a Q&A at the end. So if you've got questions, please put them in the Q&A rather than the chat, because it's just easier to manage. But yeah, I'll keep going anyway. So what do you think has helped you? Yeah, I suppose you've touched on it a bit, but what did you think really helped you get the role at Saint Laurent? What do you think was it? Yeah.
Here's the thing too. I remember when I interviewed at Saint Laurent, I had to do a test, and it was one of the first times I had to take a test. But the CFO was really, I used to work for the CFO, but he was very set on having me take a test. And I guess it's become the normal in most companies now, but I would say definitely be prepared for a test. Possibly there's companies out there that will want to test your skills, but I would say don't get discouraged by the test too much, because at the end of the day, what I think that really makes a great EA is their personality. And if you've got that and you've got the confidence and you know that you can do this job, just speak to it. Just speak it, let your passion show, and show how confident you are, and others will believe you as well. They have no other choice.
That's great advice. It is true though. I always know, like, from hiring and things like that, like the people who have the most personality and who are the most passionate are the people that you want to hire, because you know that they're going to enjoy what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So what is it like working for the CEO to one of the biggest luxury brands and fashion brands in the world?
I would say hectic is the word. There's never, like, you'll never have the same day twice. And a lot of the times that gets even sometimes in the way of my own personal projects, because, you know, it's so unexpected. Like, for instance, like right now we're going through the rioting and the looting here, and it's a lot of last minute changes, and we have to have crisis meetings with like the worldwide CEO, or, you know, so it's just being prepared for all of that sort of stuff. But I have been supporting the CFO longer. And I just recently got into this role supporting the CEO. But I could say that supporting the CFO is much harder.
I'd say so.
Believe it or not, yeah. It's much harder and time consuming than supporting the CEO. But to be fair, I think it's because we're during these like weird times where things like travel has been postponed and things like that. I think that has something to do with it as well.
Yeah. Oh no. And so what's your setup at the moment with lockdown? Since lockdowns happened, what's been your setup and how have you managed remote working?
So we've been working from home since March, and I honestly love it. There's less distractions. It's been great. I am able to do projects in such a short amount of time than it would have in the office. So I don't know if that's just because of the interaction. Like I'm just a very social person. So if anyone comes around, it's a quick like, oh, hey, how are you? And we'll get into like a conversation. But I feel like here I don't have anyone but my cats. So can't really have conversations with them. That doesn't stop me though.
Well, there's a few more weeks of lockdown and you could have.
I know.
And you've enjoyed it, and have they been good about it? Like, do you think it's something that, you know, they might like you'd be able to do long term, or do you think you do need to be in the office supporting your CEOs and the CFO?
I feel like there's days that you have to be in the office, you know, it'll just make it easier. It has been a challenge to kind of try to grab them for, you know, any questions, because you can't really just walk into the office now. You have to, you know, and with the back-to-back meetings, it's just been insane. But I would hope that they would try to do it more remote, but I honestly don't think so. Like, for instance, right now we're talking about going back into the office on June 15th. So it's pretty soon.
God, yeah, that is soon. So
Yeah.
you haven't been back to the office since everything. You haven't gone back, you've still been working from home.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I suppose for like such a huge company, it's kind of inevitable that you know, it's hard. But you never know.
Yeah.
I think what this whole thing has shown is that you can work from home and everyone can adapt quite quickly. So what do you like the most about being assistant?
What do I like the most? I honestly find a lot of joy in helping others. So I would have to say that's one of the best things. And not just like the people that I'm supporting, but like the people on my team. I really love supporting them. And also the people in my, you know, community of executive assistants and personal assistants and virtual assistants and all assistants. But yeah, it's just being able to support everyone. And I just really love to help people as much as I can. So I feel like this is my calling.
Aww. And what's your least favorite element of the job?
Okay, I'll get candid here. I hope no one's watching. But I would say it's like getting lunches and stuff, or going to go pick up a coffee, just because like I do manage like a lot of projects at work. So sometimes if I have to do those little tasks, it kind of gets in the way of me being able to complete like larger projects that they've assigned to me. So I would say that, but I mean, you get used to it. There's DoorDash and Postmates out here, so you can just have it delivered.
'Cause,
It's like a delivery service,
uh,
so yeah, you don't
so,
have to worry about it.
all these new things now, it's making
I
it
know.
more easier. Yeah, you shouldn't be. You can give that to the interns, I'm sure. Um, what do you think makes you a good assistant?
I think the fact that I take initiative, a lot of the projects that I'm even on are things that I initiated. So I, if I was given a project for sustainability, like when I first started with the company, I elevated that into something completely else where I have my own little internal team of sustainability leaders. And yeah, and it's just making yourself showing how valuable you are, really, you know, and going above and beyond your role. I don't think that you, just because you see that it says expenses, meetings, and, you know, calendar management on your or, you know, the job description, I don't think that you should corner yourself off and just do those tasks. You can go above and beyond and show the quality of work that you bring and all that you have to offer. And I know that like assistants in general just have a lot to offer, and I feel like a lot of times people don't see it. And if we want to change how we're perceived, you know, across to our peers, we have to make sure to make those moves to show them how valuable we are too. So
Yeah,
we have to do it for all of us.
yeah. And it seems to be such a common theme as well. So I think it always is a theme. Like if you know you want to progress and you want to get higher and higher, you do have to go above and beyond. But you also, and I always say this, you have to be so passionate about what you're doing.
Yeah.
'Cause if you're not passionate, there's no point. It's a waste of time. You spend 5 days a week doing your job, and you know you have to love it.
Yeah.
So my next question: if you were hiring your replacement, what would you look for?
So I would say attitude for sure. So when we were looking for my replacement, when I was promoted to support the CEO, uh, it was just this one girl came in. She had like the best attitude. Like you know, you come across so many great resumes, and that's the point that I was getting across before. It's like you can see so many great resumes, but at the same time, they can all be saying the same exact story, and it's really your job to go there and make your resume shine and your experience shine by, you know, letting your personality shine. So this girl, when she was coming in, it was just like it was like a mirror, I guess, of me in a certain way. It was just like you can tell that there was the initiative there. You can tell that there was a spark, and like how much she loved it, and she like what she wanted to do for the role. And you know, in the questions that she was asking and how she was engaging, it was very much similar to how I would be. So that's when I left that, I went to my boss and I was like, she's the one, she's great, you know. But it's all, and it had nothing to do with her resume. It was, you could just feel it from someone, you know that they can do it. So for me, it's attitude.
Yeah. And was there obviously like you got so many resumes to start off with? Was there anything on her resume that really stuck out for you that showed that personality, or was it only when you met her?
I feel like it was when I met her. Her resume was okay, but there was another girl who had way more experience, and you know, she was supporting a higher level executive at the time. But during the interview, like even though everything was great on paper, she just didn't let it speak. Yeah, and that was essentially one of the things that my boss and I first saw when we were interviewing her. And the other girl just came and blew my mind because like I just at that point I wasn't expecting it. So it's all has to do with attitude and how confident you are. And I think that if you know that you have been doing it this long, obviously you know what you're doing, or you wouldn't have lasted this long. So I would say just everything's about personality to me. I feel like that really helps.
That you will some more confidence webinars to get you all prepared. Um, so who taught you all these traits? Like, did you have a mentor?
I wish. No, I didn't have a mentor. To be honest with you, I did not know that I didn't know that there was a community out there for executive assistants. Everyone's just so used to working in silos all the time. And that's really the majority of my career. I've been friends with people on my team, but an executive assistant team, some of people that understand me, I never had. So that's unfortunate. And I think that a lot of the things of why I am the way that I am just has more to do with my personality and like kind of what I saw was working for me, what I didn't think was working for me, how I can improve things. And I think that's what helped me. But it would have been great to have a mentor, to be honest with you. It would
Yeah.
have made it a lot easier.
Oh, well, no, I think it's great. I think for people, if they don't know what they're doing, or, if they want to get to that next level, I think having a mentor is such a great idea now. Or just reaching out to the community. We have so many members with such amazing experience that all you have to do is ask. And I think sometimes people are worried to ask. And I think it's always so nice. Like if I get any messages on LinkedIn for anyone asking for help or advice, I love it, because I think it's flattering, first of all, but it's also, you want to be able to help people in what you know best as well. So
Yeah.
definitely. Well, that's amazing that you've gotten this far without someone anyway. So just quickly, you have your own company. Is your own company called Elite Assisting?
Yeah.
Yeah, tell me a bit about that.
So Lead Assisting was actually, I started it last year. It's about to make a year soon. And it all came back from exactly what we were talking about a few minutes ago. I didn't have a community and I felt very lonely. And there were so many times where I was going through certain things and I didn't know if they were normal. Or I also want to put a disclaimer out there. I do not have a personal social media. I don't have Facebook. I don't have Instagram or anything like that. So I didn't know that there was a community out there. So me not knowing and kind of going into Google and like EA community and just seeing like these big, large companies where it was hard for me to even find a friend on there, So I was like, you know what, this isn't fair. I think that, if there's so many other people doing with different titles that have a community of their own people that understand them, I have to have something for myself. And if not, then I'm going to start my own. Like, it's something just in my nature. Like, I'm just going to do it on my own. So I started Elite Assisting with like no agenda at all, just to build a community of executive assistants where we can give each other tips on restaurants in New York City, and my hopes was to expand it to other cities in the US or the UK, and so on. And that's like the vision. And the vision is really just a safe haven for executive assistants to be able to share. A lot of the times, like I'd wanted to share things on, LinkedIn, there's LinkedIn groups. But I was like so nervous. I was like, what if my boss ends up seeing me complaining about him? Like, this is not going to end well. So I was like, you know what? I'll create my own forum. We can all safely share what we have to share in there. And it's like therapy for executive assistants. And then it kind of evolved into something else where I have my YouTube now, where I will create videos with tips and tricks on how to do certain things, of just things that I've learned throughout my life as in my career as an EA. And yeah, it's been great. And I've really, really loved collaborating with such great people. Like I'm doing collaboration with Lauren on culture, because it's a topic that I love. And then just collaborating even with you and that video that we did. So it's been great and I love it. And it's everything that I've asked for and I've been looking for. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Well, we were actually meant to be launching in New York in September, but obviously everything has taken a step back. Yeah. So I was out there in February, and I was so glad that I got to go out there just before this all happened. But definitely on collaborations, when we do launch, we'll have to do something with you when we
Yes.
I think it's so great to collaborate. I mean, I've collaborated so much with Lauren because she offers her members, all the stuff that we don't offer our members and things like that. And it's so much better to join forces, and especially in times, it makes such a difference. So where can people find you if they want to learn more, if you're not on social?
So they can follow me on Instagram, which is Elite Assisting, and go to my YouTube. You can go to eliteassisting.com. You can get all the links to the YouTube channel as well from there.
Put the link in the chat to your website so that they
Oh, yeah.
can.
I can do that too.
Yeah, you can put it in there. And I'm just going to start getting some our members.
Hold on. I'm doing this on my phone, guys, so.
That's going to all panelists, so I'll send it to you. So yeah, give Christel a follow, and that's her website as well, so you guys can find out more about her company there. So Christel, I'm going to now go through some questions from our members. The first one is, how do you effectively say no without sounding uncooperative and dismissive?
I think that being able to explain your no sometimes, like, even though as frustrating as it may be, I think it's also depending who you're talking to. So I think if it's obviously someone in the organization that's important, you don't want to say like, no, I can't help you. But you could just be like, hey, I'd love to help you right now. Unfortunately, I'm working on this project. Let me finish this up. And then once I'm done, I can see where you are, if you still need help, I can help you. So doing things like that, or just telling people like, I'm sorry, I'm really swamped right now. I really can't. I would really love to help you. I think it's being able to reiterate that you would love to help, but you just can't and your hands are tied. I think people can't be mad at that, but if, it's all in the delivery, obviously. Yeah. Be like, I can't be bothered right now. It probably won't work.
Yeah, no, you can't be doing that. Next question. Oh, we answered that one. What sort of tests have you faced? When you're talking about the tests.
Yeah, so actually I took a test recently. And so these tests can be anything. So it could be like, you have to plan an event. That's the most recent one that I did. I had to plan a whole event, outline how I would plan the exact event, allocate a budget for it, create questions of what I would ask the executive. I've done those sort of tests. That's something that I've done for a more tech company. And then for my company, the test was really based off of like your Excel skills. So if I said that I was okay on Excel, my executive went and wanted to see how good I was on Excel, PowerPoint, and even creating an org chart. I had to do that as well on the test. So it's just being able to speak on your skills. So a lot of it was like were questions. So what would you do if there was a conflict on this calendar? And then it'll show you a calendar, and you kind of have to do everything on your own as if you're actually working. But those are the tests that I've taken before. I know that some places have taken tests where it's like they test your typing speed, or how well you can write like an email, or it's really depending on the company, I feel like.
Nice. And the next question is, do you ever feel that the hectic schedule stops you feeling that you've done a good job, as unfortunately we can never have thought of everything in the role?
I feel like it definitely used to. I think after doing it for so long, you just know that there's some things that aren't going to be able to be done. So you have to like not be so hard on yourself. But yeah, I've had that. I've had the points where like it's so hectic and I have so much to do that I don't know where to start. And you can sometimes go down a spiral and stress out. And what I usually do in those occasions is I will take a step back and say, all right, what needs to be prioritized? What is due tomorrow? What do I have to work on? And then sometimes you'll see that just like even checking things off. Like if you have Asana, that's great because you can check it off, or just write it out and start checking things off. And then you'll see, like, you'll start accomplishing more things. And it really helps me out with my tasks whenever I'm feeling overwhelmed, which is a lot of times.
Yeah, I think that's the best system. I always think it's like, if I know I have a lot, I just make a list of the priorities, and then, because otherwise you could be doing all sorts and then nothing's as
Yeah.
you want it to be.
Or you can miss something, I find that if I don't write it down, then somehow it stops existing. I still use it down, but it's like, it has to be somewhere where I can see it. And then, so I find that writing everything down, old school pen and paper really helps.
I mean, we use Trello and everything as a team, but when I'm like in serious work mode, when I have to get so much accomplished, I like write everything down, and it just makes you feel, I don't know, even writing it down, you feel so organized.
I know.
So someone has asked, what type of projects do you work on?
So the projects that I work on will be regarding sustainability, or a project that I was assigned about compliance. So compliance is something new that we started in the company. It's something new that I've learned. I'm a compliance coordinator, apparently. It's those are the type of projects. So for instance, like the sustainability project, it's a lot about initiatives. So I will see what kind of sustainable options are out there and how we can implement them in our corporate office. And that's the kind of projects that I lead, and finding quotes and pricing for things like motion censored sinks, and then putting that all together in a presentation that I can share with the president, and then see if we can get that approved. So those are the projects that I work on. Of course, I've also worked on a newsletter for our company. So it's those little things, but they are very time consuming.
Yeah. Wow. And someone has asked, what is the one skill you recommend every EA make sure they train up on?
What skill? I'm gonna say the culture course that's coming out with Lauren from Join the Officials. Well, I mean, I will say this, like, culture is extremely important in a company. And that's why we wanted to go ahead and create a course on it, because you as an executive assistant are the leader of that. You talk to so many people in the company. Even if you don't want to, you get to know, like, all the small little gossip, and you can control it. And you're the perfect person to control it, to control that gossip or those cliques from forming. And that's really what we're going to talk about in the course. So I would say that is definitely one of them. And just the basics, like knowing, sometimes, like, we tend to think of like bigger picture, but we don't think of like smaller things. So it's really the basics, like really master how to organize. If you're working with like Outlook, figure out like shortcuts. Shortcuts are so great on Outlook. If you're working with G Suite, obviously take a course on G Suite on how to do shortcuts or make your life easier. Sometimes there's things on there that can help you stay more organized as well, which is one of the most important things on the roll.
We had a G Suite tutorial today, so we're trying to do as many as, and I think we'll do that next week now, Outlook shortcuts. We're trying to do as much as we can as well to get, I mean, now is really the time to up your skills, and the weather it's turning a bit next week. So use the next couple of weeks to really just learn, because I think things are slowly but surely going back to some sort of normality. Obviously, not anything else that's going on at the moment. But yeah, I think it's a great time to learn these little skills and shortcuts. So thanks for that one. Lauren's doing so many courses. She has me about to start an event management course with her. I never thought I'd be writing a course, but here I am. But I don't know how she does it.
I don't know.
2 kids and everything. Someone has asked, I have a final stage Zoom interview this evening. I'm not comfortable with Zoom yet. Do you have any advice?
With Zoom, I would say I always make sure to call in like probably a couple minutes earlier, and I always confirm the room number, because I have had, points where I've been in the wrong Zoom number. And if you're in an interview, that might not be a good look, because if you're in that call for like 5 minutes. That's 5 minutes that could have been used for the interview. So it kind of delays the whole interview process or can shorten it. So I would say make sure that you're well prepared and ready prior, and make sure that everything's working. Go reset that router. Like, can't have anything, no no disruptions, nothing. Just corner yourself off and really maybe even practice like a couple, like maybe 30 minutes before on some practice questions, and do some power poses.
Yeah, and absolutely big good luck for you today in that final round interview, because last week you were interviewing, which means you obviously got through to the next round. So I'm keeping everything crossed for you.
Me too. I'm sending good vibes.
Yeah, everyone needs all the good vibes at the moment.
Yeah.
Being in the fashion industry, is it like the film The Devil Wears Prada?
It can be, yeah. It can be, and it's difficult because I'm not that way at all, but I have worked with a lot of people that are, and not all of them obviously, but you will have people that are a little too, and think that it's a movie. It's not as glamorous though, I will tell you that. It's not like we can go to like the PR sample room and just pick up anything that we want, so that's a bummer.
Are you dressed head to toe in Saint Laurent all the time?
No. Sometimes, for instance, I usually get like a clothing allowance, as most companies will give you, just because you are a representation of the company as an executive assistant. So don't forget that. But no, usually I'm at H&M and Zara stuff.
I'm like, my dream is just to be one day dressed head to toe, the whole shebang.
Me too.
So someone has asked, how often do you update your CV and LinkedIn, re-networking or future job opportunities? I'm beginning to relook at mine and finding it challenging.
So what I like to do throughout the year is, let's say I worked on a project, and it's gonna help you. But let's say throughout the year I work on a project, and then it's something that I learned a lot from. So for instance, for me, it was compliance, something I had no idea about. Once I start, like, I have this, like, let's say a notebook that I put aside with everything that I've accomplished. Then what I can do is, like, maybe every end of the year, I usually update my resume probably every 6 months, just because there's a lot of things that I may forget to add on there, or maybe I might want to take out, or so that's where that little book comes into play, because at least I forget. I need to take some pills for memory, but like I tend to forget like some of the things that I did like 6 months ago, and sometimes it's even been my own boss that has to remind me, like, oh, you don't remember you did that? Like, and it's terrible. But I find that writing it down and then updating my LinkedIn is super important. I feel like especially that's where recruiters are going to reach out to you the most. So to me, I would update LinkedIn as much as I can. And then that's going to help you get recruiters to notice you if you have that option, if you're opted in for that. You may be reached out by recruiters for some great companies that way. So you always want to make sure that that's updated. And then even if you don't want to update your, resume right away, just making sure that you have those kind of big responsibilities that you've done written down somewhere, so that when you are ready to go ahead and update your resume, you can speak to that. And it'll be much easier than having to like think about it all over again.
Great advice. The next question is, how do you keep positive when you're overwhelmed?
And this is just kind of what I do in my regular life, but I give myself a moment to sulk in it. That's fair. And I think that everyone should be entitled to do that. Just go through the emotion, but snap yourself out of it, obviously like at a decent time, and just remind yourself that you've done this before. All of these things are nothing new to us. It's things that we're already used to. So it's just making sure that we recenter ourselves and figure out that, like, all right, we've been here, we've gotten through it. what way did worked before? Let's try to do it that way again. And then I find that usually helps when you take the pressure. Like if you just like, all right, it's going to work out, it'll be fine, I'm just stressing. And that kind of helps shift your anxiety into something else, more like excited for whatever you're working on.
Yeah, I completely agree. Someone has also just asked if you can share the link for the course, but it's not out yet, isn't it?
No. So I would say if you can follow me on Instagram at Elite Assisting, or follow Join the Officials Lauren. She'll have more information as well.
Collaboration with Lauren, who does our fireside chats normally. So I'm sure Lauren will be giving you the spiel on this when she is back.
She'll give you a bigger spiel than me.
She will. What is the hardest interview question you've ever faced?
For me, it's like, I guess it would be like the one where they ask you about like, name your failures.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too. I hate that one.
I do too. Oh. I don't know how to properly tell you like, oh, I suck, but no, I suck in a good way. You know, it feels like that's the question, like that's what they're asking. And I feel like sometimes I have to pull out an answer from, I don't even know where, because like, because you have to answer that question in a way that is still in a positive, you still look like in a positive light to them. So I find it very difficult.
I think it's like one of those things, because you just don't know how to answer it, because you're not going to say the bad stuff, and then I hate all those answers that are like meant to be like, it's like, oh, I'm a perfectionist, that's my,
oh yeah,
I hate all that.
I've used that one. I told you I didn't know what I was like. I'm not going to tell you. What?
I say, well, I'm really messy, so hire me.
Hire me as an executive assistant, and I'm messy.
Next question: are there any courses Christel has completed during her career apart from the short webinars?
So courses that I've completed, right now I am studying to be CAP certified, certified administrative professional. That's something that I'm working on. It was postponed. I was supposed to take it in the springtime to get certified, but with this whole coronavirus, it got postponed to the fall. So hopefully by fall time, I will be certified. Fingers crossed.
Everything crossed for you. Next one. I now need to keep motivated for a new job search. Do you have any tips on staying positive?
Oof. All right. I definitely know firsthand what you're going through. It's going to be very discouraging, but I would say never give up, or never think that, even if you're talking about in terms of salary, what you're looking for, never give up on your number. Believe in yourself, because no one else will. And be okay that you're going to face rejection. Maybe, we all like to think that it's going to be a perfect process, that a company is just going to come and swoop us off our feet and that's it. But take each interview process that you do end up having and dissect it down to like what you could have done better. Think of like what made you nervous, what questions you weren't prepared for, and then that'll help you down the line for other interviews when you do have them. So I would say don't go into the first interview thinking that, you've got this. Usually the first one's always practice, and it's practice for the one that's going to really count. And I would say just keep on applying. Don't get discouraged. If you feel like there's some things that you can improve or some things that you can add on your resume to make it really pop, then do so, and then try that. But I would say never give up. That's one of the most important things. It's worked for me.
Great advice. God, learning so much here. What has been the most challenging part of your career progression?
What has been the hardest part? That's a good question. What has been the hardest part? I guess right now would be a good time. It's transitioning really, for me, the hardest part of my job is if I get a new job or I'm supporting someone new, it's just like you're falling back into that whole thing of like getting to know the new person that you're supporting and seeing what works for them, what doesn't work for them. That's always, to me, the hardest part, because it's a lot harder for you to determine their needs when you don't really know them that well. So I would say those are the growing pains of, like, you know, having a new job or supporting someone new.
Mm. Yeah, no, I think it's anything that you go into, it's getting used to it as well, and how you support them. And I think that's always the toughest part, because it's, you know, you're getting used to that person and it's their whole personality and how they do things and how the last EA did things. And
Yeah,
how
that's very true.
have you adapted to working from home or from a distance during lockdown? We touched on this a bit earlier.
Yeah, I mean, I've been really making sure I have touch bases with my boss every day. And if he can't meet me every day, then we postpone it. But I think the communication is one of the most important things, you know, letting them know where you are on certain projects, just touching base for the morning to know what's going on for the week or for the day if things change, especially during these times. Like, it's very important. But yeah, that would be my tip, is just making sure that you're keeping that line of communication, maybe even thinking of ways to make it a little easier for your team.
And that's good as well that you say that you, if he's not around that day, that you do postpone it. I think that's where a
Yeah.
lot of people can make mistakes, because I think it should be like, even though this is all going on, it's so important to check in and keep on top of it, rather than just like, oh, it's fine, letting the day slide.
Yeah.
How do you elevate or show difference progress between a PA and an EA?
How do I, what is it?
How do you, hold on. How do you elevate or show difference progress between a PA and EA? Ursa, that's from you.
I think I understand. I guess, I mean, I guess if you're a personal assistant.
Yeah, I'm thinking she means by growing from PA to EA.
Oh, okay.
That's
Okay.
I
How to grow from EA to PA?
think it's like how you grow. Yeah.
No, that's a really good question. I didn't even think about that. I would say, well, for us out here, a PA would be more like in New York. It's just like you're doing more personal projects for this. Like, it's a family that you're supporting. Is that the same for you guys out there, or
Yeah.
is it?
Well, oh, sorry. She's just said now the difference. She's asking the difference between PA to an EA and what you think the differences are. So yeah.
Oh, okay, okay. So I can just speak for what it's like out here. I know that it's obviously probably different for you guys out there, but here, if you're a personal assistant, you're working more with like a private family,
Yeah.
and you help them with more personal tasks like their families and things like that. Whereas, like, as an executive assistant, it's just business based. A lot of the times, like, your executive won't ask you to do personal favors like book them a doctor's appointment, but maybe you might have someone that does need a PA, and that's usually what it means out here. If they're looking for an EA slash PA, it's an executive assistant, but that can do also personal, personal like errands. So that's what it is out here. I don't know if it's different for you guys over there.
It's changing quite a bit now. I think a lot, like here, it's kind of based on your level sometimes, but then it is like, that sounds much more logical to have it that, you know, if you're the personal assistant, you're doing more of the personal things. And I do think that executive here usually can be, yeah, it's usually more corporate and things like that. But then there's PAs in corporate companies too. So
Interesting.
I think the role, like, you know, there's so many different names and terminologies and everything. It's really, really changed over the years, which is amazing, because
Yeah.
PAs are such key people in the companies. And it's so great to see, all of you being recognized for how important you are. So, it's great.
I agree.
How do you structure your day when you are working from home? Breaks, etc.
So I always take a lunch break. It's very important to me, even if it's like I just make something really quick and I just sit down and indulge in some TV. I think that's really important because what I started noticing when I first started working from home was that I started working very late. So I would still be on the computer at like 9 and I was just like, what? Oh yeah, dinner. I forgot about it.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of creating a schedule for yourself and learning to disconnect. I obviously still have my phone glued to me just in case any emergencies, but I try to follow the same schedule that I have when I'm in the office. So log in at 9 and then stay until 5. And then I try to log off unless there's a project or something that's really important. But taking your breaks is super important. You can't help anyone if you can't help yourself. So just always keep that in mind. It's not a bad thing to take a break.
And what do you do in your downtime? Like what helps you de-stress?
So what I normally do on my downtime is things for lead assisting when I can. If I can't take my breaks, then I'll just take a quick break and just make something to eat and then get back to it. But yeah, I try to take as much time as I can for my own personal project because when you're working on projects for other people, sometimes it's important for you to take a break for yourself too.
Yeah, definitely. And someone's asked, what advice would you give to someone who wants to switch from a corporate finance EA role to a makeup company EA role?
To makeup, I would probably, I'm just thinking about it if it were me, right? And what I would do if I wanted to do that, I would look at like makeup companies that you would want to join, see what their kind of requirements are and see how it speaks to your experience. And then maybe that can be revamping your resume a little bit to show that you can work in that setting. Because a lot of the times, like in different industries, they have different needs. So just being able to acknowledge that you understand the process for them makes them feel like you would understand their business a little more. So I would say, again, I feel like it goes back to like keywords too. People want to hear you speak their lingo and language. So making sure that you also go in and try to figure out what these makeup brands are looking for, what's important to them, and then speaking to that of how it relates to your job and what you do. They're all relatable, in my opinion. You can always find ways.
Yeah, definitely. And someone has asked, I've seen on your LinkedIn profile that you speak Spanish. Have your language skills helped you at work?
Yeah, definitely. So, for instance, this week we're for the Americas region, meaning even Latin America. So, a lot of the times there's a lot of emails with like our stores in Mexico, our stores in Panama and Brazil, and the language really comes into. I don't know Portuguese, but if I did, it would be very helpful. But with the Spanish, it definitely does help when you're looped into emails with lawyers and things like that.
Good to know. You'll have to go on Duolingo now and learn some Spanish. And final question, we've flown through these. Do you have any tips for posting on LinkedIn?
For posting on LinkedIn, I would say on LinkedIn, be very careful what you're posting. Just a disclaimer. Especially since if you follow or you're connected with a lot of people from your job, it will be seen. So I would say definitely think twice before you post on LinkedIn. I mean, at least that's how that's how I take it. And really just think about the message that you're going to send out. And you sometimes have to think twice about like how it can be misinterpreted, because that's kind of the world we live in right now. But think about it, and if it resonates with you, then post it. And it's something that you feel comfortable with, then post it. And if it's like things for help, just reach out to like your community of executive assistants. And I'm sure that there is always someone out there willing to help. or reach out to me. I'll help you out.
Ah. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything else you kind of want to say or anything?
No, it's been such a pleasure to like connect with all of you guys. Thank you so much for having me. I really
Oh,
appreciate it.
thank you.
This was so much fun.
And I really, really appreciate it. And definitely, as soon as I get my New York hat on, I will definitely be in contact. And hopefully, at that stage, we'll be able to go for a coffee or something.
Yes. Oh, that'd be lovely. I'd love it.
Thank you so much and sharing all your knowledge. And guys, do please connect with her and check out her website. And yes, hopefully we'll see you soon. And thanks everyone else for joining. We will be back next Tuesday with another guest, who is, I'll keep it a secret for now. It's nearly confirmed. So we're going to have guests every week. And we're also thinking that we are going to start turning this into a podcast instead, so that you can listen to it in your own time and get to know about loads of really interesting assistants. So thank you so much, Christel, and I hope all of you have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.